Welcome to this Commander Deck Tech featuring Brion Stoutarm, Robot Tosser. This is a medium power deck that cheats in huge artifact creatures, only to immediately fling them right at my opponent's face. Brion Stoutarm is a red and white 4-mana 4/4 with lifelink. He can sacrifice another creature for 1 red mana, dealing damage equal to that creature's power to target opponent. 2 things to note about Brion's ability. It will gain life from Brion's lifelink, and it cannot be targeted at creatures like other similar fling effects. The deck takes advantage of Brion's repeatable flinging by playing a wide variety of bizarre artifact creatures that have extremely high power and unusual drawbacks. This is the deck's win condition, getting my opponents down to 0 life from big sacrifices. Since redundancy is key in Commander deck building, I've also included Bosch, Barrage Tyrant, and Bloodshot Cyclops as additional, more expensive robot tossers. Brion is best friends with the evil Phyrexians. These cards are the strongest Brion targets in the deck, as they all have enormous power for their cost. Pay 20 or even 30 life with Phyrexian Processor, and then get that life right back after throwing a huge minion token at an opponent, thanks to Brion's lifelink. With the Dreadnought self-sacrificing trigger on the stack, Brion can throw it for an easy 12 damage. Phyrexian Soulgorger isn't quite as absurdly large, but works the same way. Phyrexian Devourer is the single strongest creature to fling in the game, since it will be a one-shot every time after pumping its power by exiling enough cards from the top of the library. Similar to Soulgorger and Dreadnought, it can be killed with Brion while the self-sacrificing trigger is on the stack. The Phyrexians aren't the only giant mechs in the game, though. There are plenty of other large artifact creatures to fling across the table. Traxos, Metalwork Colossus, and Ancient Stone Idol are acceptable backups if I don't draw into the ideal robots. Many of these creatures are prohibitively expensive, so I sought out ways to cheat them into play. The easiest way to do this is by putting them directly onto the battlefield from the hand, with Sneak Attack and Perforos Bronze Blooded. The downside of sacrificing the creatures at end of turn doesn't matter when Brion was going to sacrifice it anyways. Another way to cheat in these creatures is from the graveyard. Red and white may be the worst colors at drawing cards, but they are the best colors at recurring artifacts. Duretti, Goblin Welder, and Goblin Engineer can all sacrifice cheap utility artifacts to return a giant creature, while Refurbish and Sevin's Reclamation return them at no additional cost. Scrap Mastery is the biggest artifact reanimation spell available, grabbing everything at once. Since I'm frequently sacrificing artifacts, these effects will always have good targets in the graveyard. In order to fill up the scrapyard and smooth out the deck's draws, I've included a wide array of cheap looting and rummaging effects. I think cards like Cathartic Reunion, Thrill of Possibility, and Faithless Looting belong in every red deck, especially ones that can take advantage of the graveyard like this one does. Key to the City is a solid card filter and a Boros deck, with the bonus of making huge robots unblockable. Smuggler's Copter might seem a bit out of place in Commander, but the deck loves artifacts and looting enough that I've added it. The deck contains one combo to completely draw the deck and fill up the graveyard, enabling Brion to show his true strength. Wheel of Fortune, Smothering Tithe, and Underworld Breach. With Smothering Tithe on the battlefield, cast Wheel of Fortune to create a treasure trove, then use this treasure mana to repeatedly escape Wheel of Fortune with Underworld Breach, generating more and more mana with each loop. Just be careful to not draw the whole deck and lose. The deck contains Aetherflux Reservoir as a backup win condition. It works exceptionally well with Brion's lifelink. The rest of the deck is mana rocks, a little bit of removal, and a few more artifact synergies. I encourage you to check out the full deck list in the description to see the exact choices I made. My next video will be a Yorvo Elf Tribal deck. Thanks for watching this Brion Stoutarm Deck Tech. Enjoy throwing giant mechs at your opponent.